Good afternoon. It's good to see you here. It's a great, sort of good spring afternoon. Glad you came. Unitarians, we start with this, don't we? Oh, okay. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children, or your partner, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as believer or doubter, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest, you are welcome to join us as you are. Oh, now that, okay. Unitarians have been a part of the Helena community since 1982. We welcome you to share in this inclusive fellowship. We aspire to spiritual freedom, religious tolerance, and a true celebration of diversity. We are a lay-led fellowship where all may contribute to the life of our community and to the weekly services. And that part about all are welcome to contribute to our community and the weekly services, we really mean that. And if you ever feel the slightest inclination to do so, please let us know. Oh, Becky, would you like the chalice? Our chalice lighting, all together. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And now we're going to sing a hymn we haven't sung before, I don't think, but don't be afraid, it's short. Can you give us a run through, please, Cheryl?
Well, can you hear me? Yeah. The plan here is that Cheryl and I are going to do it together once through. And then you and me and Cheryl will do it 2 times through after that. Now, the reason this is kind of a difficult song is because it's, well, as it says under the piece, irregular. So, you know, there's no, it's not 4/4 time like 1 and 2, 3, 4. It's not like that. So, and it comes from the Buddhist tradition. So, these chants were long evolved over hundreds of years.
The hymn is Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourself, page 184 in the gray book.
All right, so here we go. Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. Hold on to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp. Here we go. Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. within yourselves as to the only lamp. Thank you for your patience. I don't have my reading glasses, so that made it real interesting.
Thank you, Karen. It's time for joys and concerns. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 531. The reading is 531, the Oversoul. I'll read the first part and you read the italicized. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. There's no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens. So there is no bar or wall, the soul when we affect, cease, and God, the cause, begin. Okay, I'll read too. I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine. There is a deep power in which we exist, and those whose beatitudes is accessible to us. Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable. It comes to the lowly and the simple. It comes to whoever will put us with foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur. The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception. Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is new and unchangeable. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of our heroes.
And now's the time for the fellowship to share joys and concerns. There will be a time later in the service for private joys and concerns after the video has been turned off. This is not a time for announcements, just joys and concerns. I have joy that Carolyn is leading a service before. Again, because it's been about a year, and she's one of my favorite leaders and favorite people. Yeah. And painter, yes, yes.
My name is Dorothy. I have a concern. This morning I received a phone call from my sister who fell ill with a head injury and a cardiac concern. She is in ICU in the Marshall, Wisconsin hospital, and I would like to ask whoever would offer their concern, please send her healing energy, send her positive affirmations, and give thanks for the presence that she has given us during her lifetime. I thank you for your time. Her name is Joyce Engstrand.
Carrie Fairbrother, and I'm joyful Grant is going to be hooded in just a couple of weeks now. So it's been an exciting time for his master's in clinical social work. So right here.
Sorry, I'm sitting with squirrels, so I'm having a hard time communicating. But we missed the Earth Day service last week that I'm really sad to have missed. I had to work. But we are celebrating expanding our garden this year, and it's the Hoover Family Garden Part 2, our annual garden Part 2 this year, and we're having a lot of fun with it because we're not stressing out about all the anxieties of being a new gardener like last year we were. So we're just having a lot of fun playing in the dirt, and we've been doing that in all of our free time lately.
I am so joyful that Carolyn is leading that I canceled my afternoon yoga class. And I can do that because they own the studio. And I also wanted to remind Brittany to normalize empty flower pots. There you go.
Thank you for sharing. And we hold in our hearts all the unexpressed joys and concerns that we carry here today. And now is the time for our offering. So, yes, Sam and Mara are going to come up and do the offering. And for those of you who are new or visiting, we sing page 25 in the Open Your Heart songbook at the end of the offering.
This is an auspicious beginning. You have scared me. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Cass. And now all the young and young at heart can come on up to the frontier, and Carolyn will share the story, Faith is the Gift of God.
I think I'll sit. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Can we turn it so that this is not? Okay. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. It came out. I can just hold it. This is a story that has no pictures. So you're going to have to use your imagination and think of pictures for yourself. Okay? Can you do that? All right. It's from a book called You and Me that I bought when we went to General Assembly a few years ago. 400 years ago, there was a little country tucked in among the high mountains of Hungary called Transylvania, or the land of the forest. The king of that land was John Sigismund. Crowned king when he was only 21 years old, he was already brave and thoughtful, and he needed to be, for his little country had some big troubles. Can you imagine a country in the forest? And can you imagine being a king when you're a young man? King John's father died of an illness when King John was a baby, and so he had to make his way without a father to guide him. As a boy, John was never very strong or healthy. He often felt dizzy and weak and had a stomach ache, but he did not give in to those feelings any more than he could help it. Have you ever felt that way? Where you felt like you had a stomach ache, but you weren't going to let anybody know because you wanted to be happy? He learned to play all the sports that the other young men at his court enjoyed, just such as sword fighting, horseback riding, deer hunting in the forest. I can picture that, deer hunting in the forest. King John's country was right next to two large, powerful countries that fought with each other a lot. King John worried because he did not want his little country to get into their quarrel. But even worse than that, King John's own people fought with each other in the land through the forest. Can you imagine that? You see that? They fought because they belonged to 4 different kinds of churches. The churches were Roman Catholic, Lutheran, Calvinist, and Unitarian. Does that sound familiar? Unitarian? The people in each church said, our ideas about God and Jesus and what a church should be like are the only true ideas. Everyone, they thought, should believe what our church tells the people to believe. People only wanted to believe in the teachings of their own church. Sometimes the people fought with words, arguing and saying the worst things they could think about to each other, whether they were true or not. You wouldn't do that, would you? Do you ever do that? Say something bad to somebody that you know is not true? No. Other times, the church that had members in government fought by taking the people's jobs away or the people's money. Often, people were put in prison or even put to death. This is a bad story. When times were at their worst, people even tried to kill King John himself because they hoped a new king might make their church the one and only church. Actually, this kind of fighting about churches happened a lot in a lot of countries in that part of the world. King John thought for a long time, and then he made a decision. He called the best speaker from each church to come to a place called Torda for a debate. You know what a debate is? What? Can you tell me? A debate?
It's when you argue.
It is. Yes. Well, you talk, yes. A debate is an argument with rules. Each person takes a turn to speak about his or her ideas. You were right. There's no quarreling because only one person speaks at a time. A judge decides who has the best ideas. The debate began each day at 5 in the morning and lasted 10 days. Did you ever get up at 5 in the morning?
No.
I don't like to. The speaker from the Unitarian Church was a man named Francis David. He argued that no one has the right to force people to believe anything about God. After 10 days, King John ordered the debate to end, but he did not announce a winner. He did not say that any of the 4 churches was best. This probably surprised many people. King John did listen to the argument of Francis David, though, that no one should be forced to believe in any religion, but should be able to choose for himself or herself. Then King John made an important announcement that was called the Edict of Tordah. The edict told the people that from this time on, his subjects could debate about their ideas of religion, but they must not fight, punish, or kill each other about religion. Every church and every person would be free to follow their own beliefs. This was a new and strange idea for those times, and many people were angry with the King John for this law, but he stuck to it. Unitarians, that's us, especially remember King John because his law made it safe for them to be Unitarians. Thank you for listening to that story with no pictures. Well, you have me well worried with the praise that you gave me before I ever started, so I hope I live up to it. Subjects love those heretics. Long ago, in the 60s, when Tom and I were young marrieds, my parents gave us a set of 8 highball glasses with the 7 deadly sins etched on them in old English letters that read lust, greed, gluttony, etc. The glasses are gone. Oh, the 8th glass was etched, that 8th deadly sin, choosing the wrong side. The glasses are gone now, but the etching on the 8th one has become a family meme, choosing the wrong side. And now, choosing the wrong side is not just a little family joke, but it can serve as an ominous warning to anyone with an opinion. It can literally be deadly in this confrontational cancel culture, where choosing the wrong side can not only get you fired, but fired upon. Think of Liz Cheney, or the teachers fired for exposing children to the wrong book, or Zoe Zephyr kicked out of our state legislature, or that in the last year there were over 8,000 threats against members of Congress. Think of Alexei Navalny, or the 11 people killed last year by a hater in the Tree of Life synagogue. Even in our country, built on the concept of a freedom of speech and conscience, remember the First Amendment of our Constitution, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Even in spite of this, our First Amendment, we are becoming accustomed to books being banned and student protesters thrown in jail for shouting unkind words at those who disagree with them. When rioters are called patriotic tourists and a corrupt leader is regarded as a savior sent by God, we are living in a time of avoidance of truth. It seems we've lost the middle ground where understanding and compromise is not acceptable. Choosing the wrong side can be fatal. It's safest just to keep quiet, keep your thoughts to yourself. When we see power cave to idolatry, when craven representatives kowtow to cultish bullies, and we see what happens to those who choose to oppose those bullies, we don't just admire the brave heroes who stand up to them. We need them. We need the courageous people like Liz Cheney and Zoe Zephyr to stand up to the bullies' threats and speak truth to power. We need the heretic heroes who dare to choose the wrong side. Lately, when so many people are so willing to follow blindly whatever's popular at the moment as a result of watching the news, I've been attracted to the stories of those who stand up to power. I crave stories about her heretic heroes. So when I was asked to lead this service several months ago, although I had several other topics in mind, I finally settled on heretics and heroes. Preparing, I looked through my past sermons. Isn't sermon a pompous word to use? Our lay message, yeah, our message. I discovered looking through them that 13 years ago I presented a talk called Heretics and Heroes. I had forgotten I called it that. Apparently, I was craving for stories about heretic heroes way back. I talked then about Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Albert Schweitzer, both of whom defied the Nazis. Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pacifist, set up schools to teach young ministers to resist the Third Reich, among many other heroic deeds. He was executed by the Nazis. Schweitzer opposed Hitler and wrote against orthodoxy of his church. He left the seminary where he trained and taught because he could not in good conscience teach any longer what he had stopped believing. He studied to become a doctor and went to serve the people of the Congo. It seems that once you consider doing something you think is significant, your mind becomes alert to everything connected with it. Ever since I agreed to do this service, I kept coming across instances of heretic heroes. For example, recently, the movie A Man for All Seasons popped up on TV. I watched it again. You've probably seen it. It's the inspiring story about Sir Thomas More, the ultimate man of conscience, who remained true to his principles and religion under all circumstances. He was the highly respected member of Henry VIII's inner circle who, as a devout Catholic, refuses to pressure the Pope into annulling the king's marriage so Henry could marry Anne Boleyn. His conviction that the Pope's law trumped the king's law cost him his head. He died for his faith in God and the supremacy of the Pope. I kind of disagree with his belief, but was awed by his devotion to his belief and his unbreakable integrity. The film is a moving story of heroic courage and staying true to one's beliefs. And even though More's position did not win in history, his speaking truth to power has lived through history, and it's relevant today. Excuse me, my throat gets dry. While still thinking about more, I came across an article in a February New Yorker about a new book, Spinoza, Freedom's Messiah. Did any of you read it? The book is by Ian Burma. It's about Baruch Spinoza, the philosopher, another heretic hero. During the time of the Inquisition, when people were being put to death for their religious beliefs, that went on for centuries. Spinoza, after being excommunicated from his Jewish community in Amsterdam for his evil opinions and abominable heresies regarding the nature of God, he published his Tractatus Theologico Politico that declared that the best policy in religious matters is to be allowing every man to think what he likes and say what he thinks. His God was different from the one worshipped in the churches and synagogues. His God was not a being or intelligence separate from the rest of the universe and us. He said, if God exists, he must be everywhere. Whatsoever is in God, and without God nothing can be or be conceived. This pantheism was heresy then. Spinoza realized the danger he risked by exposing his truth, and he was cautious enough to write his Tractatus in Latin for philosophers to read in order to discourage the multitudes from reading it. He managed to keep a low profile, refused an offer to be a professor at Heidelberg University, allowed his other writings to be published only after his death. Published nothing else that was read. Thus, he escaped further attacks and peacefully died in his bed. According to Baruma, the writer, Spinoza is important today because it says, quote, liberal thinking is being challenged from many sides where ideologies are increasingly entrenched by bigoted reactionaries as well as by progressives who believe there can be no deviation from their chosen paths to justice. The article adds, offending the wrong people, even for a moment, can blow up the career of anyone from a young adult novelist to an Ivy League professor. As I read the Spinoza article, I thought of our UU heroes in the story for all ages, Francis David and King Sigismund of Transylvania. 100 years before Spinoza, during an earlier Inquisition when heretics were losing their heads, David, a Unitarian, convinced young King Sigismund to be the first ruler to allow freedom of religious thought. Sigismund declared in the Edict of Torda, "We wish that in our country freedom shall reign. Faith is a gift of God, and conscience cannot be contained." Looking him up on Wikipedia modifies Sigismund's effect by reminding us that the edict applied to all Christian denominations except Roman Orthodoxy and did not apply to Jews or Muslims. Nevertheless, it's the first example in modern times of an explicit government policy of religious toleration, and it was an extraordinary achievement by the standards of 16th century Europe. It was heroic in 1568. A couple of years after the edict, Sigismund died. His successor instituted a persecution of Unitarians, and David was arrested and died in prison in 1579. The long timeline of UU history is littered with heretic heroes martyred for their beliefs. Coming across Moore and Spinoza and thinking about Sigismund solidified my decision to talk about this subject today. I am awed and grateful to these heretic heroes. We need their inspiration today. We're all tired and disheartened by our current climate of divisiveness, vitriol, anger, and violence. It takes courage to stand up openly for an issue now. I don't even want to use a bumper sticker for fear it might invite violence to my car. And I admit, I feel hostility toward drivers with objectionable ones pasted on their cars. I have some hesitation to put a campaign sign in our yard. In these days of hate and mass shootings, it even takes some bravery to come to church. Thank goodness we haven't had any churches shot up in Helena, but UUs do face pushback from those who look down on us and our religion. For example, Dr. Tony Larson, a retired UU minister, said in a sermon titled, "Why You Should Not Be a Unitarian Universalist." Quote, "Finally, you should not be a Unitarian Universalist if you can't stand name-calling. You are likely to get it by staying here. When you tell people you're Unitarian Universalist, some of them will seize on the more sensational aspects of this church. Oh, you're the atheist church, or you're the people who worship flowers." Labeling is a price that you pay and a risk you take in belonging to this church. And if it's any consolation, Unitarians and Universalists have had a long history of being labeled and vilified, and of responding with courage that comes from faith in the human race. From the days when UUs fought that respectable institution called slavery, to their battle for women's rights to vote and their struggle for civil liberties. You should not be a Unitarian Universalist if you don't like diversity. And you should not be a Unitarian Universalist if you can't stand the name-calling that will inevitably result from being in a diverse church. Here in Helena, though, thank goodness, we don't suffer intolerance as some parts of the country do. I remember Bill Cronholm's story about the woman who moved to Texas and was repeatedly asked the familiar question to newcomers there, have you found a church home yet? And when she answered that question from a group at her job, she answered, yes, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. They backed away from her as if she had a communicable disease. Don't get me wrong, I'm not implying that we are heretic heroes for coming to Big Sky UU, but I do think that the freedom and encouragement we find here to speak and live our authentic truth is of ultimate importance in finding fulfillment in our lives. We seriously and gratefully revere our fourth principle. We affirm and promote the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The folks who wrote our principles were geniuses at brevity. In 5 words, they express the principle that is central to UU and that makes us different from other faiths. Free, responsible, search, truth, and meaning. One other word that keeps coming to mind as I consider the fourth principle, that word is choice. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning is all about choosing instead of automatically accepting. UU is all about choosing what is genuinely meaningful to us. Choosing is ingrained in our history. The very basis of our faith is heresy, which comes from the Greek word for to choose. We honor the freedom to choose the truth of our conscience. The New Yorker article about Spinoza had a sentence that I especially liked. It is because Spinoza sees true understanding as the key to happiness that he insists on freedom of thought. True understanding is the key to happiness. At about the time I read that, I also came upon this from the marginalia that comes weekly into my inbox. Does it come into yours too? It's a discussion about a book by James Hollis, The Middle Passage. It elaborates on Spinoza's key to happiness idea. It says, in our development as human beings, one has entered the middle passage when the demands of the true self press, restive and uprising against the acquired persona, eventually colliding to produce untenable psychic ache, a fearsome clash. In my own words, when we reach middle age, we are confronted by and made uncomfortable by the choices we made as we were growing up. Choices that we were given by family and culture that no longer reflect our reality. Hollis says, if we were born of another time and place to different parents who had different values, we would have had an entirely different lens through which we view the world. When we reach middle age, in order to be happy and live fully the rest of our lives, we have to cast off Hollis's acquired persona and learn to live the true life of our authentic nature. This stood out to me because it fits so perfectly with what brought me to UU in my late middle age. You've heard my story before. Having been brought up Christian at my beloved Grandma Dottie's knee and having attended so many churches, giving lip service to their dogma while gradually realizing as I grew up that I didn't believe a single phrase of the Apostles' Creed, I wondered why so many people I knew and respected believed so firmly. They were so faithfully and happily immersed in church life, and I wondered, what's missing in me that prevents me from finding that comfort in religion? Why couldn't I accept spirituality? What's wrong with me? When I came to my first UU service, I knew I had found my true home. I could live my truth, and I had made the right choice. I think most of you share that experience. It's popular today to say one is spiritual and not religious. And I once gave a talk saying that I was religious but not spiritual. Now I want to change that. I am religious and spiritual. Religious because I am nourished and comforted by the beloved community of our church and enjoy being immersed and committed to its service. I never thought I would be a church lady, but here she stands. Spiritual because I now recognize the spiritual as realizing that spirit is what makes each of us, while being part of all creation, unique, makes each of us unique. Seeking to know what is our own unique, individual, authentic spirit and working to be true to it and its connection to the universal is what spirituality means to me. I crossed into the middle passage more than 20 years ago when I found and chose UU. Well, not there yet. I feel I'm on the right path. I wrote something in here to remember, and I can't read my writing. Well, not there yet. I feel like I'm on the right path to finding my true spirit. I'm grateful for UU, especially the fourth principle, and for the heroes who have lived by it and by their sacrifice helped make our lives more meaningful. To recap, what have we learned from the heretics? How do they inspire us? Well, in the words of Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, for it's through freedom of thought and conscience and asking and seeking true understanding that we serve mankind and find the key to happiness.
Thank you, Carolyn. And now please join us in a few minutes of silent meditation. Does anyone have any reflections on the message?
Carolyn, I'm kind of gobsmacked. I feel like you gave a history and a point of view that feels to fit like a glove for me, and that it is so beautiful to honor choice and the phrase, to thine own self be true. And I don't know what other religions feel about their religion, but I have been a refugee from them because that didn't fit me. But this one does, and I'm really impressed with your message today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cass.
Carolyn, I'm just going to echo what was just said. It was remarkable, and it summarized the way I feel about you, and the way I feel about religion and faith. So thank you.
We've got,
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Jones, she, her. On a car ride back from, I think it was Christmas in St. Louis, back to my mom's house in Kansas City, my brother and I had a really long conversation about religion, and he's never really asked me, well, tell me about your religion before. It was the first time that he ever gave me the space to talk about it. And I read the 7 principles, and he was pretty okay with most of them except the 4th principle. And so we continued to have that conversation, and he was like, can you say it again? That free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And we ended up having a logic debate because his view is that there is only one truth. And I said, well, how do you know what's the truth? How do you know that your truth is the truth? When someone else's truth, they believe it just as much as you believe it. And it really, at that point, yes, it was about religion, but it was also about choice. And thank you for just emphasizing that and really highlighting why I believe in this religion.
I just wanted to say thank you, Carolyn. As always, you echo a lot of our thoughts. And since I was lucky enough to be raised I didn't question. I just, I was as bad as the other way. And so for me, it was interesting when I came here to hear people. I didn't like the fact that somebody would say something negative about their religion and that's why they went to this religion. I didn't want it to be because something was negative. I wanted it to be because it was positive to be here. And that was the difference, I think, of taking it for granted instead of, and when we were young, we did have to go to different churches. That was part of the curriculum, so that we were not allowed to say we were Unitarian as kids in our church, because we were maybe going to the Unitarian church, but we weren't allowed to say, I am a Unitarian, until you were, I believe it was 16, and had enough education to say, this is what I want. It's not because it's what my parents want me to say. So I felt very lucky, but it was great to kind of hear that synopsis. And our kids used to get to fundraise. Some of them would get to go to Transylvania as one of the trips, school trips, or church trips.
Thank you.
We've got a treat coming up. Karen's going to sing Heretic Heart, which Judy recommended when she heard we were going to talk about heretics and heroes today.
I have my reading glasses on now. Oh. That might be helpful. Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. Let's see, how do we turn this thing on? Ah, perfect. Thanks. Yeah. So, this is off of a recording. I never did find the printed music for it, so this is one of those things that Judy and I are pretty good at, where we just listen to it and figure it out. So, here we go. I am a bold and pagan soul, a-rambling through this land. I judge the world by my own lights, and I come by my own hand. And if you ask me how I learned to live so recklessly, my skin, my bones, my heretic heart are my authority. My mother was a singer of tales, my father a dreaming man, and I have swung from the dragon's tongue and danced on holy land. I've sung the seed up out of the ground and the bird down from the tree. My skin, my bones, my heretic heart are my authority. I once was found, but now I'm gone, away from the faithful few. Actually, that's what wasn't the word. The faithful fold of those who preached that holiness is to do as you are told. Though law and scripture, priest and prayer have all Jesus loves me, but I think they tell in vain. Their cross-bound dogma, their theology, on me it has no claim. My goddess is Our Lady Moon, whose tides run deep in me. My skin, my bones, my heretic heart are my authority.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was great. And thanks to Judy, too, for knowing what to suggest. We can extinguish the chalice now if we know how. All together. We extinguish this flame, but not of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And now's the time for any announcements which are not on the back of your order of service and are not in the weekly email.
Thank you for the weekly email.
Yeah. Ah, Mary Ann.
Just an aside, 3 weeks ago, I said I would have flyers about water conservation, and I have 5. I didn't think a whole lot of people would want them, but they finally came to me, and they are back by the recycle box if you are interested. If you get to the box and don't have one, I can find more.
Thanks. Greg.
A reminder from the weekly email, I have some raffle tickets that Vivian is selling for Premier Dance Company to help fund their annual Nutcracker production. So if anyone wants one of those, come and see me.
Brittany.
Not sure how many of this directly applies to you, but any indirectly. We are having our Helena's first annual Birth and Baby Expo at St. Pete's this week, Saturday. So I'm excited to help host with that. And we are featuring a lot of providers and supporters of people in the perinatal period there. And I'm also excited to mention that we have started the Helena Village Collaborative, which is a collaborative of just providers and supporters of individuals in the perinatal period to help support new families, and as kind of agency to connect people to other agencies. So check us out if you interact with people, young families, or people expecting babies to support people. We need a village, and we don't have that right now in our community. So.
And now the camera will go off, and you have the opportunity to share any